Alright, hello everyone. Welcome back to my Lua tutorial series for absolute beginners. In this episode, we're going to be going off of what we did last episode, and we're going to be continuing our exploration into for loops. So in this episode, I'm going to introduce a new concept called a list. So lists are very, very useful in Lua and in all programming languages. And how they work is very simple. They're just a list of a certain data type. So to demonstrate this, for example, if I have a list Bob and Tom. Alright, so I have a list of those names. And notice that in Lua, in order to create a list, we use these curly brackets and we separate elements or members of a list by this comma. And there doesn't need to be a space between these necessarily. I like to do it sometimes because it makes it a bit more readable. So lists are very useful in Lua, and I can show you this basically by kind of demonstrating some code that could be without a list versus with a list. So let's get rid of this for a second. So let's say we wanted to print hi Tom, hi Anna, and hi Barry. So we go ahead and run this. You can see it works. It says hi Tom, hi Anna, and hi Barry. And you could do this forever and ever with whatever names you wanted, but it would be very, very repetitive because you would have to write print every single time that you wanted to print everything out. So what if there was an easier way to do this with for loops and with lists? Well, there is an easier way of doing this using lists. So let's say we have a list, same list as before, Alice, Bob, Tom. And now we wanted to do the same thing. We wanted to print out each member of the list. Well, what we can do is we can use a for loop, like we learned in the last episode. We can do for, and we'll say iv in I pairs names do end. Let's put a space here, and then print v. Oops, I should print it hi Okay, so there we go. So how did I do this? And what does any of this even mean anyway? How did we go from doing for loops last episode to this? And what does this mean exactly? Well, this I pairs is a function similar to how print is a function, and we'll discuss functions in the next episode. But basically what it does is if we give it a certain list, and we say, and before we do that, if we put for I comma v, and then in I pairs, what it will basically do is it will look at the location of each element of the list, of each member of the list, and the value of each member of the list. So I is a variable that basically means the location. So in Lua is unique among many programming languages in that we start all of our lists at a value of 1. So this is the first element of the list, this is the second element, and this is the third element. In most other programming languages, you would start at 0. So this would be the 0th element, the first element, and then the second element. But in Lua, it's different. It starts at 1. So this I is the number that basically says, it's called an index, by the way, and in every programming language, it's called an index of a list. And that index is basically just telling you, okay, where in the list is this located? Is this the first or the second or the third element? So I is the index, V is the value. So in this case, the values would be either Alice, Bob, or Tom. And then iPairs is a function that basically kind of takes that list and figures out, okay, in which location is this, and what's the value. And then we have a for loop here that says, okay, we want to say print and then hi, and then we want to add the value. We want to concatenate the value that is here, and we want to concatenate this exclamation point. And this allows us really to avoid repetition. Now in Lua, all lists, what I'm calling a list is really called a table. So this is actually called a table in Lua because tables have multiple purposes. In most programming languages, lists are usually just lists, or they're called arrays in some programming languages. In Lua, we call these tables, but I've been referring to them as lists up to now to make it more easy to understand. So whenever you hear the word table, you think of something like this, basically. So to loop over a table, we basically do that, and we can print out the values, and so that's one way of using a for loop to kind of avoid repetition, and how to use tables in Lua. Alright, so there's one more use of tables in Lua that's incredibly important, and one more use of for loops in Lua that's very, very important to know. Something called a key value pair, or in some programming languages this is called a dictionary, or in some other programming languages it's called a hash table, a map, various different words for it in different programming languages, but it's basically the same concept. I'm going to show it to you here. So let's say that we have the names of a couple of people, Alice, Bob, and Tom, and we also wanted to have along with that basically assigned to these people their age. So for example, Alice is 14, Tom is 16, and Bob is, I don't know, 19. Then what we can do is assign them key value pairs. So in this case, Alice, the key, which is basically the word that's associated with something, is equal to 14. So whenever we use we look up Alice, well, she's associated with the value of 14. So in this case, Alice is the key, and the value is 14. Here, Tom is the key, and the value is 16. Bob is the key here, and the value is 19. So this is called the dictionary, basically. And to iterate over a dictionary using a for loop, what we can do is we say for k and v in pairs, names do will print out the key and the value, just to show you how this works. So key, in this case, the key would be Alice, and the value is 14. So Alice has a value assigned to her, and that value is 14. Tom has a value assigned to him, and that value is 16. And Bob, he's the key here, and he has a value assigned to him of 19. So that's another incredibly useful use for tables in Lua. You'll be using this quite a lot, and you'll be using these for loops quite a lot when writing in Lua. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope you learned something. Leave any questions in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys next time.